This is a report that they do once a quarter, and we were saying we have 3 seasons of webinars, so we kind of miss quarter 1, I think, typically. Although maybe we'll find a way to do that. So right now we're talking about quarter 3 and the report, and we'll do a update from kind of what's going on with BizBuySell, and we will also be going through this quarterly insight report. So guys, thank you very much for joining us today, and I'm going to hand the Zoom off to you and let you guys go from here. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Ron. Really appreciate it. It was good to see you at the IBBA. We were neighbors. Our exhibit tables were right adjacent to each other, so it was good to connect with you and your team there. And this year, we've done your sessions. I think this is our 3rd time. We did one in February that was our 2020 kind of year in review, what a year that was. And then we were on again in July, I think, to do Q2.
Right.
That's right.
And then in early September, BizBuySell did a broker growth summit that was brought in a lot of updates from not just from BizBuySell, but we had a rep from Google, and we had some members of our broker advisory council that gave us some good insights. I have the recording to that session, so if anybody's interested in getting that, just let me know, and I'd be happy to send you a link. And then, of course, it was great to see everybody at the IBBA in October. There's always lots of interest, and we get a lot of good feedback into our quarterly reporting. And Adam spends a great deal of time and his energy in interpreting the data. And I know that everyone's really looking forward to hearing from Adam. But in advance of that, I wanted to just give a quick update on what's happening at BizBuySell, and also just share our role in the brokerage ecosystem and our commitment to business brokers. So the first thing I want to say is happy anniversary to us. It was actually just a couple of weeks ago was the date that we started in 1996. So we celebrated our 25th anniversary. For those of you at IBBA, we had this graphic rendering in a chart, and it's just fascinating to see the progression from really the birth of the World Wide Web in 1990, where there were 44 million internet users. BizBuySell starting in 1996. 2 years later was when Google was founded, and then in 2005 was when the social media came along with Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. And then in our progression, LoopNet acquired BizQuest, and then LoopNet acquired BizBuySell. And then in 2012, CoStar acquired LoopNet. So that's it's been fun in my 5 years here, just to see the progress that we've made. But it's also good to celebrate and memorialize our 25 years of doing this. So I also think it's very important to just convey to our business broker customers what our mission is. And that is that we've got 4 primary constituencies that we serve. So we want to inspire and help entrepreneurs uncover opportunity and create value through business ownership. So for buyers, it's an education process, not just on how to buy a business, but why they should buy a business. We spend a lot of our resources internally driving traffic so that buyers can find brokers and find listings easily. For our owner customers, we want to provide them with education.
Hey, Doug, are you sharing slides right now?
I am.
Okay, it's not showing yet.
I'm sorry.
No worries. No worries.
I was waiting. You were doing such a great job there. I was waiting for a moment to interrupt.
I hate to interrupt, but I knew you. I thought you were sharing slides. So.
My bad.
There we go.
There we go.
Okay. So this is where I was speaking to. Now you guys can see it. Apologies for that.
Do you want to show the cool graphic first? Just flip back to it really quick.
There we go. Happy anniversary. So there you can see on the very left in the green, 1990 was when the web was founded. BizBuySell founded in 1996. Google comes along in 98. Facebook and YouTube and Twitter in 2005. LoopNet acquires BizQuest in 2010. CoStar acquires LoopNet, BizBuySell, and BizQuest in 2012.
So Doug, is that the original BizBuySell logo there?
It is. It is. And if there's a lot that you can find if you go to the site called the Wayback Machine. Yeah, you can get a lot of interesting websites from before. All right. So our constituencies are buyers, owners, brokers, and franchisers. For owners, it's really about education, right? So not just how to value the business and get the right price, but what the process is like. And part of that relationship that we try to cultivate with owners is referring them on to brokers. And I'm going to speak to that for a second. For brokers, it's pretty simple. We want to drive more deals, more closed deals than any other source. And we want to be the leading source of listings, both of buyers and sellers. And then in our ecosystem of small businesses, franchisors and the franchising industry is a very important part of that. And so for franchisors, for their franchise opportunities, both the new locations that they're opening, plus the ownership transfer, the resales, we want to be the highest converting source of leads and empower the growth of the franchise industry, which we're a very important part of. So for brokers, it's pretty simple. We want to help you sell more businesses faster at maximum value with minimum friction to make you more successful and to make you more money. And the way that we aim to do that is to maximize exposure and response for your listings. And that really translates into traffic. So one of the benefits of having a 25-year domain and 25 years of experience in optimizing our site to receive this traffic is that we can really drive a huge audience and huge exposure for brokers, not just for your listings, which is going to attract buyers, but also for your brokerage services and what you represent. And those would be the sellers. And then we want to give you tools to measure marketing effectiveness. So I'm going to show a few slides on our new listing analytics. So we're going to try to give you insight and information so that you can in turn serve your sellers and your buyers in the best way, and you can close deals faster. And then finally, we want to get the qualification piece too. So for us, it's not just about driving volume and driving quantity, it's also about driving quality of leads. So at many points along the way, when a seller is attracted to our site through search, we take the opportunity to demonstrate the value of engaging with a broker. And this is just one example of that. And we have many others in our newsletters. We do a lot of PR, we write articles in the press, and in our content, in our learning center, we're trying to educate business owners that the best way to sell a business is to engage with a broker. And through that funnel, we try to then convert those into leads for you. And as part of that, one of our initiatives in 2021 and moving into 2022 is to really do a better job of cultivating leads of sellers. And I've spoken to some of you at the IBBA and getting your input, and we've gotten some great input and feedback on the best ways to do that. What we're trying to do is to develop a system, as you see an example here, where we're engaging with business owners and then trying to match them to a qualified broker. So more to come on that. We did a little pilot of it in 2021. And what we're trying to do is to get that at a place where we can scale it and then maximize it for you. So also in 2021, we introduced our Broker Advisory Council. And so throughout the year, these 9 folks were very instrumental in helping us understand, not just what we're doing well, but what we could be doing better. They provided really, really valuable insight. I got to give them credit. They did not hold back. They gave us very unfiltered feedback, and they really helped us make some really good decisions about, not just, who we are as a business, but where we're going and what we can do to better serve brokers. So if there's any advisory council members on the call, once again, thank you so much for your service this year. And we look forward to working with you as we move forward into 2022. In addition, this year, we're building out a broker relationship team, and we're starting with 3 territories. So in the East, we've got Linnea McCulloch. She's based in our Richmond, Virginia office, and she's covering currently Virginia, North Carolina, Delaware, and DC. Isaac Newton is our resident physicist. He's our man in Dallas. He's covering Texas. And then we have an open position for a specialist in the West, ideally based in California. So any brokers on this call who would be interested or maybe have a referral that may want to join the BizBuySell team, we're looking ideally for somebody who has experience in the business brokerage ecosystem, also understands marketing, online marketing, and advertising. So any referrals you can provide us, we would be grateful. Also in 2021, we launched some enhanced listing analytics. And really what we're trying to do is to get better at helping you manage your leads and then report out to you on your leads with a better graphical interface that shows you over time. The previous reporting was a little bit more like a table. This shows you the progression over time of statistics. This is for a listing of some key metrics that we're following for you, which are impressions. Impressions are just the number of times that listing comes up in a search. Detail views is when the listing has been clicked into and viewed, and then of course the leads, which is the most important thing. So impressions are important. Those numbers are usually high. It's good to see impressions over time, just to see how it's coming up and how these categories are being searched, and also the impact of listing actions and what that does. But really the primary drivers that we're trying to improve for you over time on your listings are click-throughs. That's somebody actually clicking into your listing and looking at it. And then the leads. So in this slide, you're seeing a progression over time. It shows when the listing actions, like an upgrading it to a showcase level or sending a buyer blast, and what that does to click-through rates and also to detail views. In the click-through rates, we generally use a 2% metric as a benchmark. That if your listings are not performing over 2% click-through, then work with us and let's take a look at some ways to get that better exposure and to get that listing at a higher click-through rate. And then the most important metric of all is the leads. These are people actually coming to you with an interest and intent of purchase. So again, here you can see over time where listing actions like sending a buyer blast had an impact on lead volume. And then also we're tracking phone leads. So with our new call reporting system, this is a key driver of this intent of ours to help you understand lead volume, not just in terms of leads that are coming in through the email process, but those that are coming in over the phone as well. So I really don't want to overlook the opportunity when I'm addressing brokers to help you get better and to help you be more successful. So what I will say to you is please use your showcase credits. If you have a premium or an elite level account with us, as part of your membership, you get one showcase plus email credit. And we see a lot of times in our reporting and in our data that those credits are being applied and then they're not used. So you get one a month. If you are a premium or elite member, and if you have not taken advantage of that listing upgrade, that will expire on November 30th. So please, if you're an elite or premium member, take the opportunity to use your Showcase Plus email credit. If you're on a Showcase Choice plan where you have a set of slots where you have listing upgrades, make sure you're maximizing that. That's another thing that we see is brokers buy a packet of listing upgrade slots, and they're using very few of them. So it's important. It behooves you to elevate your key listings to the higher end of the search results and to be able to do that. Number two, make sure you're maximizing your geography for your area served. If you're a premium member, you get up to 5 counties of exposure. If you're an elite member, you get up to 10 counties. So make sure your profile is complete and just make sure that geographically, and our search in the broker directory is driven by county. So make sure that all of the counties where you want to be found, you want to come up in a search for a business broker, that you're doing that. And then finally, make sure your listings are distributed. The listings that you publish to our site can be distributed out to your LinkedIn profile. They appear on the IBBA website that's powered by BizBuySell, on M&A Source, and many of the state associations. And that comes with part of your membership. So make sure that you're leveraging that within your broker profile, that you're pushing your listings out to these sites. It's just going to give you additional exposure and drive more lead volume to you. Your broker profile is critical, especially if you're looking to acquire sellers. So this is an example of Matt Coletta. who does a great job of a professional photograph. He's got his company logo and his website there. He's got all his associations and memberships linked. He shows his sold listings and his current listings. And then he does a good job of describing to somebody who lands on his profile why they should engage and potentially sell their business with him. So make sure your profile is at that 100% completeness level, and make sure you're doing the best job you can to represent yourself in the best way, not just on BizBuySell, but on any area where online you're representing yourself. On listings, make sure your listings are compelling and that people want to click in and learn more about them. So things like photos, maximizing the industry and location info, making sure that it's well written, including those financials where possible, including seller financing where possible. It just gives you a more opportunity, and you put yourself in a better position to get more buyers, more people interested in that listing, to be interested enough to click in and then potentially leave a lead. And then what not to do is, please don't write in all caps. Please don't leave it blank without a photo. Please, like, no typos. Make sure you're building it out and that you're putting in as much information as you can. It's just going to help you get better, and it's going to help us bring more leads to you. So I'm just going to, before I toss it to Adam, this is a good example of a well-written listing. And that if the seller financing is there, our data shows that lead volume increases by 13%. If you have an asking price, if you can include key metrics like gross revenue, EBITDA, and fixtures and equipment, those things just help. It's well written, it's compelling, and it's it's a model that we use to help you get listings into better shape. So we're here to help you be successful. Please let me know if there's any way that I can help you. Reach out to Linnea and Isaac, or reach out to me if I can be any more help. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Adam.
Thanks everyone for having us here today. I always enjoyed coming on this webinar and talking with you folks. Thank you, Doug, for reinforcing the using your Showcase Plus email credit. That's something my team tries to hammer home as much as possible. Unfortunately, the main driver that we have is email, and we get about 40% of people to open those. So a huge part of the users with those credits aren't even seeing the email reminders. So I appreciate that. Okay, let's see if I can actually control. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to run through the Q3 BizBuySell Insight Report. And I want to keep this a little bit more of a conversation. The report, as it first started ages ago, I started with BizBuySell in 2010, was it was just more by the numbers and not as much context provided by business brokers. What we've done over recent years is use the numbers to tell the story on what's happening in terms of sale price, transactions, et cetera, but incorporating much more surveys and interviews and whatnot to provide the ultimate context around what's happening in the market. So thank you to everyone that participates in our comps program. Looks like there's a little bit of a lag. That participates in our comps program and fills out the surveys. And I know some of them are a little bit lengthy, but that context really helps me create a better story that's going to get us picked up and promote the industry in the national media, and also at the same time provide exposure for our brokers and whatnot. So as part of the Q3 report, something different from our other quarterly reports, and we do this annually, we engage in a confidence index where we survey buyers and owners and trying to get their sentiment on the market. So that's something different that you'll see here. But here's an example of some of the media that has picked us up throughout the years: New York Times, Washington Post, CNBC, Bloomberg, Small Business Trends, Biz Journals. There's been plenty more. I was actually just on an interview yesterday with Newsday journalist is writing an article. I think she spoke to several brokers in New York. So some of you may have even spoken to her. She's a really, really nice lady. So, okay, I'm trying to flip forward. It's amazing after 2 years of Zoom, how I still get nervous trying to thumb to the next slide. It's like, is it going to work? But anyhow, and just went ahead one more slide. So the other thing about the insight report, this is something that you should absolutely be using in your marketing. We Sell Restaurants does a great job of that and creating collateral and, blog posts and what have you, just to tell what's going on in their market. And what it does is when potential clients come to your website, they feel that you're more of an expert and an authority to handle their business. And there's plenty of other great reasons to do that. So let's dig down into the Q3 Insight Report. Okay, so Q3 21 by the numbers. So really good story. Transactions continue to rebound. So if you look at Q2 of 2020, obviously that's when the pandemic hit and we had this giant freeze where banks weren't lending, buyers weren't buying, sellers weren't selling, what have you. And Q3 of 2020, that's when the CARES Act went into place, where buyers were actually incentivized by 6 months of paid principal and interest by the SBA to close their transaction by the end of Q3. Of course, that got extended through 2021, but that's why you had that initial spike in Q3 of 2020. And Q4, of course, after that, things slowed down, but have steadily ramped up. And, we're up 17% in transactions versus last quarter, still 7% below pre-pandemic levels, but I expect us to be back at and well above pre-pandemic levels in 2022. Record median sale price. This is a trend that we've seen continue. More businesses are recovering, and that's what's leading to the sale price just continue to move up 9% above last quarter. And what I think is really impressive is it's 40% above pre-pandemic levels. Now, it's impressive, and it's also, if you dig deeper, tells a story of the types of businesses that are selling. It's skewed because poor performing businesses are still on the sidelines, or those of lower value that are still working their way back. But still a nice number to see. That said, it does look like SDE is under pressure. Of our survey of owners, 71% indicated that they're facing higher costs than before the pandemic. And there's been a lot in the news about it, and I'm sure you're experiencing a lot of this with your clients, but the labor shortage is having a huge impact on business owners. 1 out of 2 owners are saying that they're having a problem hiring or retaining employees. We have a lot of data on this, and I don't want to do death by numbers here, but they're having to combat with raising wages to attract talent. And then, of course, if you are raising wages to attract talent, your current employees are going to know about that, and they're going to say, hey, what's going on, and expect raises, and just a lot of complexities there. And then, additionally, 41% impacted by the supply shortage. I know we have a few hundred cargo boats off the coast of California right now. I heard on Bloomberg Radio that supposedly that's going to start working itself out through the holiday season, and hopefully that's the case. But these are some very meaningful challenges that owners are dealing with. And I asked a question in the broker survey, for you professionals, how are you managing valuations when these hopefully short-term challenges are impacting the bottom line for these business owners? And the results were quite mixed. I don't think there's a perfect answer, but it did seem like the majority of brokers felt like you just need to be a little bit before and after blend to create that value. And in some cases you have you work a deal with the buyer or with the owner, where if a certain situation doesn't play out, then someone kicks in some additional money. So so some really great data there. And if anyone wants more information, my email address is on the Insight Report page, so you can just reach out to me, and I'd be happy to have a conversation or to send you some of the additional data that we have. So that's Q3 by the numbers. Okay. So as I mentioned, once a year during the third quarter, we engage in our confidence study. So this is really just trying to figure out, all right, how are buyers and sellers, really buyers and owners, feeling about the business for sale market? And traditionally, sellers have felt like they've had the upper hand up until last year where things switched. And what this really comes down to is pricing. Last year, with everything dipping in the business for sale market, buyers felt like they could get these extreme discounts, were in much better position to buy at a lower price than in 2019, where owners were the exact opposite. For my, I know Emmett's on the call, maybe Dustin too, for my crypto buddies, there's a term, HODL, hold on for dear life. The owners that held on for dear life during 2020, their confidence is now bumped back up, glad that they can now secure a higher price than LOL crypto from Emmett. Glad that they could secure a higher price than 2020. Whereas FOMO has kicked in for buyers. They're kind of kicking themselves for having not purchased in 2020. So 49% of owners expect a higher price now in 2021 than if they had bought in 2020. That's up from 20% that felt the same way in 2020. And, pretty much where we were before the pandemic. Buyers, 42% also expect higher prices. So 12% of buyers expected higher prices in 2020. So of course, the number one reason that buyers are less confident in the market every time is that owners are setting unrealistic prices, which I think might be the case, but it's this whole fun dynamic between buyers and sellers. So for what it's worth, 41% of brokers say the market still favors buyers, 34% sellers, and 21% balanced. So I thought that was neat that things are really starting to kind of even out there. So this is our confidence study. Now, I spoke before about shortages being the challenge for business owners. When you think about the recovery of the business for sale market, we have had no shortage of business buyers really since Q3. Buyers have stepped up in a big way. The CARES Act was a big part of that. Unemployment, just several factors really push people towards independence. But what hasn't followed is really that supply. So the question that I had, is this growing confidence leading towards more supply on the market? So is higher confidence driving sellers to the market? So we asked our sellers, we said, do you have any plans to sell your business? 20% plan to sell now. Main reason being retirement, 38% burnout, and then 15% liquidation. Unfortunately, probably those owners that have tried to HODL, but just haven't been able to, and it's just a time to, sell the inventory and equipment. And then you could see, 8% by the end of 2022, 6% before 2023, and 20% yes, but just not sure. And the 40%, this kind of tells you the sample of people that we interview for this data, just no plans right now to sell. So of people that aren't ready to sell now, but do plan on selling, sometime in the near future, I thought this was interesting that the majority are still waiting for the market to approve. So there still is concern about market recovery. 27% waiting for their individual business to improve. But you have this 22% that still say their business is performing beyond expectations and they just want to, keep holding on. So it's this dilemma, like when do you sell, how do you time the market and sell on top? But that's what they're facing. So let's go back to a quote from Max Fryer. Thank you, Max. You always provide great commentary in our survey. So I find myself quoting you quite a bit, but I thought this did a pretty good job of summing up what I'm hearing from other brokers as well. Max says there are still fewer sellers on the market than there otherwise would have been due to COVID and post-COVID challenges. However, we signed up more clients in Q3 than any other quarter, and I feel strongly that burned out sellers are going to be coming out to the market more robustly in 2022. So I just wanted to take a break and again have this be more of a discussion. If anyone wants to weigh in, are you experiencing an uptick in sellers in your market? What are you seeing there? Are you seeing more people contact you? Your listings go up? I've heard a few brokers say they're busier than ever, to the point where they have a hard time responding to buyers, which happens to be the number one complaint from buyers on BizBuySell that we're trying to fix. So Feel free if you have questions, comments. Now's your chance. Or I can keep moving.
I don't know, Ron, if everyone is muted or if there's a way to unmute. Or you can use the chat or the Q&A feature within Zoom. Up to you.
All those are available. So
Okay. I believe your audience is riveted, Adam.
I believe so. I think I've just given such great information that everyone is just like,
we had somebody, but they dropped. Keep going. Don't be shy, people. Come online. We love to have interaction.
all right, I see Paul Sanchez says, how do you handle sellers that had a lousy 2020 due to COVID? So I'd open that up to the audience here. I guess what I've seen in our survey results is it really depends. If they're starting to recover, then you try and use a blend. I feel like I'm speaking for brokers here, so I'd really, be happy if someone else jumped in. But and Dustin can, but just to finish my point, it sounds like you use kind of a blend of the before and after, maybe with some sort of earnout. But Dustin, you want to take the mic?
Here we go. Hey, Dustin.
Hello. How's everybody doing? So
Good.
one thing that I've been doing since the start of the pandemic, well, really kind of, I guess after Q1, Q2 of 2021, and talking to Darren Mize and some other, third-party valuation analysts that we work with and how they're looking at it, and lenders. So my understanding is a lot of lenders and third-party valuation companies are completely throwing out 2020 if current performance is within 5% of prehistorical performance. So if it's within 5%, then you can really throw 2020 out the window because it was an anomaly. If it's not within 5%, then those third-party analysts and the banks are really going to rely heavily on month-over-month performance and seeing what the metrics look like and what the rebound and recovery rate is. What we're doing here at Horizon and is, I'm going back to 2017. So I'm instead of taking a 3-year look, I'm taking a 4-year look, see what the 3-year, 2017 through 2019 look like, see what 2020 did. Obviously it's likely going to be down, or maybe it's up, but quite substantially. And then to see if that, some industries were obviously positively impacted. So seeing if that trend continued in 2021, and I'm looking at basically I'm looking at trailing 12 months. I think that's really more indicative of how the businesses are performing now coming out of COVID over the past 12 months. And then if you want to compare, that TTM to the previous TTM, and then also just doing some through the third quarter, I'll look at through the third quarter for this year compared to last year, compared to 19, again, to see the pre-COVID, COVID, and post-COVID trend. And then just trying to take an average and heavily weighting it on current performance. So that's what I'm seeing.
Hey, Dustin, so on the flip side, so businesses that really outperformed during COVID, liquor stores always pops to the top of my mind. Are you taking that same approach?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, some businesses, liquor stores, for example, some restaurants that already had their delivery or pickup services, mobile services, were already implemented, so they were already ahead of the curve. They did exceptionally well. So, but what banks and lenders and buyers are looking at is did that trend continue? So once COVID, once the major impacts of COVID have kind of passed by and the economies have been opening back up in your jurisdiction, were those businesses able to maintain those revenues? Some have and some have not. So yes, you would essentially be looking at it the same way or at opposite, right?
Got it.
And
that makes
then,
sense.
I guess to answer your other, so to answer your question about, uptick in the market with sellers, the third quarter specifically for us has been dynamite. I mean, we traditionally as a firm, we would have 50 to 60 listings, starting, March of 2020 at the pandemic, we had a great year in 2019, so we had sold off a lot of our inventory. But for the better part of the last 12 to 18 months, we've been floating around 30. And we finally, with just a huge push, we just launched about 10 new listings. So now we're up back over 40. And I've got just over the past 2 or 3 weeks, our phones have been blowing up with people that we've talked to over the past couple of years and new inquiries. So whoever made the statement that you had quoted just a minute ago, I definitely believe and agree that we'll see a lot of sellers coming out in 2022 after they think and they're confident in their 2021 numbers. And then of course, as these baby boomers start to finally, decide to retire, we're going to see a lot of movement there.
So yeah, thanks, Dustin. Larry Goldstein typed into the Q&A, and I'll just read it for those of you who haven't checked it out. He writes, sellers of poor performing businesses are looking for the exit doors. Many sellers have too much work for their labor and supplies. They want to get out, but financials are not where they need to be for a good valuation. I think that's good feedback. Paul Sanchez writes, some sellers want to throw out 2020 when valuing the businesses. COVID is not over. Yeah, 2020 was just such an anomaly, such a crazy year. So I think, Dustin, your point about going back several years is probably a smart tactic.
Yeah, thanks, Dustin. Thanks everyone that entered the Q&A there. Yeah, this is one of the reasons why I'm really optimistic. And I was talking to the reporter from Newsday yesterday. I was really optimistic about transactions exceeding what we saw back in 2019. I just have to imagine especially if you're a baby boomer, having gone through everything from COVID, if you went through the recession, years ago, I mean, you got to be ready to throw in the towel now and, exit while you have the opportunity.
Hey, Adam, we had a question come in on the chat, and this might be good to open up for discussion among the brokers here. This is from Michael Cootie. He writes, any feedback or concerns among buyers about the pending vax mandate debacle and how that might affect their businesses or sellers?
I saw that. And so just quickly, and then, yeah, I'd love to hear from others. So in my survey, we added a question kind of asking that, and it didn't seem like there was too much concern. And I didn't know if that was a situation where many states aren't really enforcing. I know in San Francisco, you need to have a vaccine card to go into restaurants. I think that's the same in parts of New York, but yes. I didn't know if that was the case with the majority of other parts of America. So it just wasn't really as relevant. But I'd be really interested. Yeah.
Yeah. Any brokers on the call want to weigh in about vax mandates and the impact on, sellers with their businesses or buyers?
Yeah, the silence mimics what I saw in the survey.
You didn't even get a response from Dustin, so that's
the amount of people that said that they had some concern was like less than 100, and we survey thousands of people, so there wasn't even really anything meaningful to draw from it. But I'll continue to ask that in future quarters. By the way, so this is an interactive report, and I rely on brokers for this. So if there are questions you think I should be asking, shoot me an email, and I'd be happy to do that. So keep that in mind. And, I'm always available, always checking email. I'm always happy to have a conversation. Ironically, I don't like presenting, but I like having conversations. Anyhow, okay. So thank you everyone for your feedback there. Let's go ahead and move on, and let's talk about buyers. What do buyers want? Keep thinking of the Mel Gibson movie. What do buyers want? Hopefully other people have seen that movie. I don't know how dated I am. Okay. So motivation for buying a business. This was a big theme of our insight report. We are seeing a lot of people that are looking to exit corporate America or whatever job they have. But it seemed like from the please elaborates, a lot of those were from corporate America, either currently working, unhappy, or newly unemployed. So I think that total is about 56% of these people say that their motivation for buying a business is due to that, which in my mind makes sense. I know during COVID, I spent a lot of time with my family, and although my 3-year-old and 5-year-old did drive me crazy, it was nice seeing them throughout the day. So I could understand, having been exposed to that, more people, looking to have that flexibility versus sticking with their traditional commute and, kind of 9 to 5. So that was the main motivation. You still have 30%, 32% of people that believe they could get good value at a favorable price. Whether or not that's the case, there are a variety of good businesses to choose from. That was 24%. I think we're just going to continue to see that increase as more businesses recover and whatnot. And you had these 8% of people that say, I don't believe now is a good time to buy a business. Although we qualified this by saying, are you going to buy a business? And they said yes. So I don't know, maybe their spouse is forcing them to do it. I'm not sure what's going on there. So there's the motivation. Desired sector, service. When I was talking about SDE being impacted, what was really interesting looking at Q3 versus Q2. So SDE is still up year over year, but we saw declines Q3 versus Q2 in every sector other than service, which really was propped up. So I guess it would make sense they're less impacted potentially by the supply shortage. But anyhow, that does stand as the top desired sector, with 35% of buyers saying that's where they like to purchase. This also lines up with brokers. We asked the same question, and 33% of brokers said service was the top sector in demand. What was interesting is number 2 for brokers was manufacturing, and buyers, and maybe just a sample that we surveyed, had that down towards the bottom. Restaurants at number 3, in both cases, kicking out others. Great to see, especially since restaurants were really hit by the pandemic, particularly dine-in. So that was nice to see. And you have online, finally retail. So that's where they're looking. The other thing to note about manufacturing, obviously you need to be much more qualified. So if you're thinking about first-time buyers just lost their job or looking for that freedom from corporate America, manufacturing might not be the best fit. But that's just my 2 cents. Desired acquisition type. Primarily people are looking for an established independent business. We're constantly marketing the benefits of buy versus build. Would you rather have to work for that first dollar or buy it? And all the reasons that everyone on this call is already aware of. 37% of people are looking for business assets. Now, in our survey, we asked owners what percent were looking to buy another business. And it was around 40 to 50% that said yes. And I think they fall into that business assets bucket, that or their business is performing so well that they're looking for a second location or, inventory or what have you. But that was a pretty high percent that I was surprised by. 31% real estate kind of falls within there. And then, at the bottom end of the spectrum is new franchise opportunity. So this just mirrors the idea of independence. Obviously, new franchise opportunity, you don't have as much independence. You still are kind of working for that franchise, whereas established businesses, you can do whatever you want without following any rules. So that's the desired acquisition type. And again, so I mean, this is kind of the cliff notes of the insight report. If you haven't, please take the time to read through the entire report and shoot me any questions that you may have if you want additional data. Just for context, we mined through about 70 questions between brokers, buyers, and owners, and around 2,000 to 3,000 responses, multiple cohorts, et cetera. So there's no shortage of data. If there's things that you're just curious about or data that you could use in your own marketing, reach out to me and I'll be happy to share that with you. So anyhow, discussion, Q&A. This is my last slide. We got 14 minutes left today.
All right. Thank you very much, guys. Well, if anybody would like to raise your Zoom hand or chat or Q&A, we'd love to have you come on with us. And it's a great time to ask your question. I had, I'm just trying to get back into my normal view there. Do you guys ever report on anything of like, do you ever ask business owners if they plan to exit? We know why they're exiting, but are they a planned exit or and how far out they've been planning? I'd be curious to know that data if this is kind of a life event happening. That's typically what we would think in our industry, is that something's happened. I need to get out. I'm burned out, health, divorce, retirement's obviously a big reason, but I would be curious to know if they had planned that and for how long they've been planning it. That would be interesting.
I know that's a great question. I know we've asked that in the past. We did not ask it in this most recent survey, but I'm hoping with COVID catching so many owners off guard that people learned a big lesson from that and are at least getting an exit plan, in gear. In our own marketing, Doug showed that we're trying to get more sellers over to brokers, more seller leads. Something that I'm particularly pushing is like, hey, look, if you're not ready to sell, that's great, but contact a broker so they can at least start to help you out with a timeline so that, when you are ready, you can go to market and not have to spend upwards of 3 years if your financials aren't, in good shape to do so. So, but that's a really good question. I'll take note of that, and, I'll follow up next quarter with the results for that.
Anybody else got any?
I was going to say, I think as we seek to engage, with more sellers as a way to, create an opportunity for a broker, I think that, that information is going to be important to know.
Yeah, it'd be interesting.
As Doug talked about with updating your profile, that may be something to add. We're here to help you develop your exit plan if that's, a service that you offer.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah. I think one of the great things you guys done, that broker advisory group, I imagine that's led to a lot of good thinking of features and where to focus and all that. So I applaud you guys for doing that. And we'll make a final call for any Q&A here. If anybody would like to raise their hand or ask their question, we'll take a few more minutes, but we'll have BizBuySell back in probably January, February timeframe. We'll be talking about Q4, which is always interesting, kind of look at the year in review,
Right.
And then kind of looking ahead at 2022 as hopefully COVID's more in the rear view mirror. And
Yes, indeed.
but this is always, I will say this as a kind of a final comment for me. This is you mentioned this, Doug, but this is really, we need to be, as an industry, using this information to educate business owners. We say that quite a bit, but this isn't just for our interest, but this is just great blog material. It's great webinar material. It's great information to post on social media. This is this is just good data that is provided, and we really appreciate you guys doing that. And I think we as an industry, to elevate our profession, need to get this information out there and use it to talk to our buyers and sellers.
So, hey, Ron, just to tag on to that
Yeah.
one. And again, I encourage everyone to go to BizBuySell, and you can either type in BizBuySell Insight Report into your browser, or there's at the footer of our homepage, there's a link to the Insight Report. And if you go in there and spend some time and explore, you'll see that reporting and that data is very interactive, and it can be very specific to local markets. So the data that Adam was presenting was on certainly a global, national level. But yeah, go in there and run reporting for your local market and put that out on social media, or put that out in any way you want to use it. As long as you source BizBuySell, that data is for you to use, and again, to help educate sellers and business owners in your local market about the dynamics of what's happening. Is really valuable information for you.
Yeah, and if I can make one plea, if you're a BizBuySell member and you're deleting a listing, please, if you can, just submit the comp information. One issue that I do run into is I'll be contacted by a journalist in Iowa where we don't have a large sample size. And, whatever you can do to help me grow the sample size, I can start marketing and, grow an exposure for the industry on a more regional market basis. So that'd be a huge help if you can.
Right. Well, gentlemen, thank you very much for taking the time today. We appreciate everybody that attended. What are we, Thursday here? And we will be back. Well, actually, no, we are off next week for Thanksgiving.
Let's hope so.
Yes. No webinar next Thursday, and not Tuesday either, but we will be back for a few final weeks before, hard to believe, the end of the year. We'll be kicking off a new season in January. But gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us today, and I hope everybody has a great rest of your day.
All right. Thanks
Thank
for
you all.
having us.
See you
Happy
guys.
Thanksgiving.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody.